Welcome back to another episode of Obsessed by Everything Bravo. Hi, I hope you're having an amazing week. Now that we are early in January, my name is Meredith and I am your host on our journey through the Real Housewives. Today we're talking about the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills Season 2, Episode 11, entitled Tempest and a Tea Party. So, okay. I feel like of all the episodes in this season, this is the one that is important. And I feel like we're finally getting to a place where we can start to draw a line from all the pins. We're connecting the pins with red string, if you will, but we're making connections to all the things that have been going on, to all the things that we've been talking about, to all the things that I've been alluding to since the season began. Okay. I would say also that this episode is probably one that I remember the most. It's like a flashbulb memory, but not because I don't remember like what I was doing when this happened, but I remember the tea party pretty much beat for beat. And I feel like when this originally aired, I didn't know what was going on. I feel like a lot of stuff was kept under wraps for us, and it's only now looking back at it, knowing how things went, that I can fully understand it. But I feel like this was the episode that it was just mind-blowing. It was important for a lot of different reasons. It's got a lot of ramifications and consequences to what's happening here, good and bad. But let's get into the episode. So the last episode we left on a cliffhanger that I care so little about. Is that we are going back to Kim's, where she's moving, and she wants to introduce Kyle to her new boyfriend, Ken. Now, Kyle's been crying and not so much about the new boyfriend, but like just like that Kim has been keeping this from her, and she feels like she doesn't know what's going on. And she's like, I don't want to meet him when I'm crying. I look like a nut. I don't think that really matters. So Kim brings her in, like kind of like leads her in like a child. It's so strange. They meet and they shake hands. And then there's this other guy. There's this other guy who's just helping like them move. And he's just like standing there watching this whole situation, like awkwardly watching this situation. And Kim's like, oh, this is so-and-so. He's my right-hand man. Okay. Is this person important? I don't know. Like, is this like your best friend? Does this person work for you? I need context. I don't have any. It's just another example of how I just fixate on like little small things that are not important. Okay. And then they're kind of sitting around awkwardly, and Kyle looks down at Ken, and she's like, "Is that a wedding band on his finger?" And he's like, "No, it's not a wedding band. It's a promise ring, because, you know, we've promised each other that, you know, whatever. I don't know what their promise rings stand for." And Kyle's like, okay. And while she had been sitting there, she was playing with the dogs. So she goes, I need to get up and wash my hands because I've been playing with the dogs. Meanwhile, Kyle has like 4 dogs at her house. So she goes into the kitchen and she's crying again. And she's in there crying alone. And then Ken hugs Kim. And Kyle tells us that she wants to see her sister happy, but she doesn't think that Ken is the right person for her. And she tells us that Kim's kids have told her that they think that Ken is very controlling. And it's understandable that Kim would have kept this from her because she knew how she was going to react. She's like, I know why she kept this from me, just like she knows why I'm crying. And to be honest, this is devastating because this is what I was wondering before. Like, what do Kim's kids think? Because I think that's like a huge tell on how good a person is. If your kids don't like your new, now, sometimes they're not going to like them just on in principle, but for Kim, that's not the situation here. Like, they might, say, "Oh, I want mommy and daddy to get back together." That's not happening in any of these situations. And Kim's kids are all adults. Her youngest one is like 15. I know she's not an adult, but like everybody else is an adult. And so um they know what's up, and they're not like sitting at home hoping mommy and daddy get back together. And so and she's already been with several marriages, she's had a bunch of relationships since most of them. So they're based in reality and not like a childhood issue. So that kind of eliminates that. So if they don't like him, then there's a reason they don't like him. And they're saying that he's controlling. I mean, maybe this is why all of her kids are suddenly not there when before they were all there. Maybe it's because of this man. Maybe it's why two of her daughters are fighting. Maybe it's over this man. And that's why Kim didn't want to get into it and didn't want to tell us what it was about. It was because it was about her. I don't know. And how Kyle said, she knows why I'm crying, just like I know why she hid this from me. That says a lot. Um. Oh, I wrote. Kim said she wanted Kyle to know that this is the first time in her whole life that she did something because she wanted to do it. This whole scene, they're playing like the end of the season music. The music cues are something that I don't know if I've ever really noticed before, but I'm starting to really pay attention during this whole process because it's just like so funny. Each one of the franchises has their own kind of musical style, and I don't really know how to describe this, but it's like I can tell who the next scene is going to be about based on the musical cues because they'll always do like for Kyle, they always have something like really like upbeat. They're like dun 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 dun. So like for the younger characters, they always do like an upbeat one. But they're playing like the end of the music. Like it's not the OC end of the music, which is dun na 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 dun na na na, but it's the Beverly Hills end of music, end of season music, and it's different. But it's like I recognized it right away, and I was like, why are they playing this? Is Kim leaving? Which I know she's not. She's in the rest of the season. I don't know. Anyway, Kyle tells us that maybe she's wrong and she'll be okay, that Kim will be okay with this person. And she says, I hope to God I'm wrong about this. Ugh. Okay. So now we go and we have an Adrian and Paul scene. I don't want to talk about them. They're going out to dinner. It's a nice romantic dinner. I guess it's Paul's birthday. So they go out to dinner for his birthday. And whatever restaurant that they go to, they get like a private little room, which is nice. And there's some back and forth, bickering, whatever. But then Adrian says that she is a little concerned about Taylor. You'll say hi to her and she'll practically break down crying. And according to Taylor, her relationship has gotten to a point where it's physical. So Paul's like, well, is that true? And Adrian says she doesn't know. So Adrian says she doesn't know. She's only knows what Taylor tells her, and that it's difficult to like Russell after Taylor tells her about the whole situation. And Paul's like, well, he seems so mellow. And Adrian says she only knows what Taylor says, and Taylor will get emotionally distraught, and then 15 minutes later she'll act like nothing's happening. She tells us, as a friend, she wants to be there for Taylor, but the stories are so severe, it's hard to understand why anyone would go back to a situation like that. And then Paul says that he doesn't know if he believes it. And Adrian says she's never seen it and she doesn't want to judge because she's never seen anything. Now, I want to pause this and I want to remind us that this was filmed in 2011. And I know that doesn't seem long ago now, but in the paradigm of Me Too, the paradigm shift that was Me Too, this is quite long ago. And now, if a woman came up to us and said, I'm being abused in my marriage, I would say 80% of us would believe them. Especially a woman, especially another woman. And because I feel like once the Me Too movement hit, which was about 5 years after this, people started to realize that domestic violence, sexual assault, date rape, stalking, online harassment, all these things that are happening to women are so much more prevalent than what they thought, because what happens is a lot of people do experience this, but they keep it in because they don't think they'll be believed, and they wouldn't be believed. And, speaking of P. Diddy, me and my husband have been watching the P. Diddy documentary that's on Netflix. And the funniest story about this is, I cannot wait till we get to Vanderpump Rules, and I cannot wait till we meet Emmett, Randall Emmett. I can't wait to share that story. But anyway, because it reminds me of 50 Cent. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But, P. Diddy was abusing women for 30 years. And some of the women that were in this documentary would report it. I think Aubrey O'Day was pretty explicit. I mean, I remember her saying stuff back in the day, and nobody believed her. Same thing with Harvey Weinstein. I feel like Rose McGowan, she got blacklisted because she exposed the abuse, and nobody believed her, even though everyone involved knew it to be true, not even including all the women that he'd done that to previously that had gone along with it or not gone along with it and just didn't say anything. And the reason they didn't say anything was because exactly what happened. I mean, look at what happened to Rose McGowan. Look at what happened to Brendan Fraser. Look at what happened to Cassie, which is P. Diddy's girlfriend, longtime girlfriend, that eventually brought charges. All these things happen and nobody says anything. But then once Cassie brought those charges, there was hundreds of complaints, right? Or 100. And it's just the same way with this. And it's like, we are still at a time where women are not being believed for lots of different reasons. Number one being misogyny. And it's almost like unbelievable at this point. And a little bit of here and there, they've already said all this stuff. It's going to get worse here in a few minutes. It's almost like unbelievable. Like, oh, they wouldn't believe her. That's crazy. But like, no, that's just how it was. And that is part of the problem, is that people weren't believed. So they wouldn't come forward. And we're going to dive into next episode the thing of, I can't believe people would stay. We're going to put a pin in that. We'll dive into it because there's actually like a good scene that kind of explains that a little bit. But yeah, people just didn't understand. And I think what they're trying, again, Adrienne is so much very aware of how they're all on camera and how they might look, that she's not really going to go there and make people look bad. And also she's hedging what she's saying because she doesn't want a lawsuit coming her way. Because if she basically, they're saying, I don't know if it's true. I only know what she tells me, but I haven't seen it with my own eyes. And so she's able to say it without saying it. And if for some reason she gets hit with a subpoena, she can be like, wait, I said I didn't know if it was true, So that's a little bit of it. It's just like removing that slander, that libel, whatever. I don't know the difference between the two. So that she can be like, well, I didn't say it was true. I just said I heard it. But also a little bit of it is, yeah, they're not being believed. Okay. And now we go over to Kyle and Mauricio, and Kyle says that she has so many things to talk to him about. She has anxiety about Kim moving in with this new guy, and that they've been dating for a year. And Mo is like, well, do you like him? And she's like, I don't even know him. How am I supposed to like him? But she says, I don't have a good feeling, but Kim did seem happier today or whatever day that is. So maybe this moving in with him is just a convenience thing for her. And Mauricio goes, well, like, is she settling? Settling? Sir, what does that mean even? So now we go see Taylor, and we're at like some kind of convention, and Taylor tells us that she was recently taken over as online sales director for beauty products company, and she's been nominated for an award for women in business. Russell's there, and this is like a daytime lunch thing, okay? And Taylor says that when he's around, she finds herself worried about him, like worried about what he's doing, who he's with. I don't know. Like, why would you even? I don't know. Okay. I'm so torn. I have such cognitive dissonance with Taylor, and we'll talk about it later. But if this is how I'm feeling as an audience member, I can't imagine how all the ladies are feeling, having to just. Why are you with him? You know what I mean? If you don't like each other, he's mean to you. Why do you stay? Well, we'll talk about it. Okay, so she's invited the women to the lunch. Camille, Dana, Adrian are there already, and they're waiting on Kyle, but Kyle's running late. So then we catch up with Kyle, and Kyle is lost. That's why she's running late, and part of me is like, production couldn't have been like, hey, it's all of our other people over there. I don't know. This seems funny to me. Like they would just have one person, they have a walkie-talkie following Kyle. And she's like freaking out because she can't find anybody. So as she's like walking around this big conference center, hotel or wherever, Lisa Vanderpump calls her. And she's like, oh, hey, where are you guys? And Lisa's like, well, I'm at home. Where are you? And she's like, well, I'm at the hotel. I can't find anybody. And Lisa's like, I'm not at a hotel. And Lisa's like, well, are you coming? And Lisa's like, coming to what? And Kyle's like, to Taylor's luncheon. And Lisa's like, no, I wasn't invited to Taylor's luncheon. And she doesn't have any idea what she's talking about. And Kyle's like, oh, I thought that's why you were calling me. And Lisa's like, nope, I was calling to invite you to a tea. And so then Kyle's like, oh, okay, well, I see everybody else. I got to go. Ooh. So Kyle sees the other ladies, and she's like, I think I just made a huge mistake because I asked Lisa if she was here already and where were you guys? And Adrian's like, no, she wasn't invited. And so Kyle feels really bad. She's like, oh. So then they go and they get seated, and they're all sitting with Taylor, of course, and Russell. And Kyle immediately tells her, she's like, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. And she called me. So I just asked her, I told her I'm lost. And I was like, kind of frantic. And I told her, and Taylor's like, tells us, she's like, I don't have any regrets that Lisa's not here because I feel like she doesn't like me. And then I wrote, Taylor did not win the award. Whatever award it was that she was up for, she did not win. So then Adrian asked Kyle, well, what did Lisa say when you told her about it? Did she have a snide remark? And Adrian tells us that it's Taylor's right not to invite Lisa, but it's passive aggressive. If she wants to make a statement, she should just make a statement. And Lisa says she's shocked because all the ladies, we always invite each other to all of our major events. So we can all support each other, and she felt left out. So then at the table, Adrian asked Taylor why she didn't invite her. And Taylor just goes, it's a big day for me, and I didn't want Lisa to give me some kind of backhanded compliment wrapped in sarcasm. And Kyle tells us, there's a lot of stuff going on between all the ladies, and everybody just needs to get things out on the table. Because if you recall the last episode before the seance, I don't know if it was the last episode, Taylor just comes up to Lisa, or comes up to Kyle's complaining about Lisa. And why is she specifically going to Kyle? So this is the second time that Taylor is bringing evidence over to Kyle. Like, oh, Lisa is, going after me or going, selling the press the stories about me. Why is she not telling Adrian this? Her and Adrian are close friends, and Adrian's close-ish with Lisa. Why is she specifically going to Kyle? That's like a question that I have, and it has got to be because Taylor is trying to drive a wedge between Lisa and Kyle. And Lisa has known this is coming for a while. This is what she was talking about last year, about how she felt like Taylor was trying to come in between her and Kyle, and that Taylor was very manipulative. So in the end, this is true. Lisa was correct about this. Okay. So now we're getting to the tea. And this is the event that we will be at for the rest of the episode. And this is the event that is like that flashbulb moment. So couple of things here. We've got a lot of underlying issues. Okay. So first of all, everyone is concerned about Taylor. Hands down, Taylor is mad at Lisa. She thinks she's selling stories, and she's sending her all these Russell's sending her emails about whatever, so because he thinks that she's going to then tells this to the mags, I don't know, the media. But everybody is also, Adrian is also mad at Lisa. We don't know. They've had some tension. And Bernie's always talking shit about Lisa. I don't know. It's strange. And now Taylor's also mad because she thinks that Lisa's going behind her back to tell everybody. I don't know if it's just everybody on the show or everybody in Beverly Hills that Taylor has no friends. And again, I don't think she meant it that way. I think she just was saying that Taylor and Camille weren't close. Okay, whatever. Who cares? Not like, oh, she doesn't have any friends. Okay. We go over to Lisa's. She's setting up her tea with Rosia. And Lisa says that she's been so busy. She hasn't been able to go to a lot of the events. But she wants to have a tea party. And you know what? She says, I'm going to invite Taylor. I mean, obviously they already have. And she says, I'm not going to get into petty bullshit. So Adrian, Kyle, and Camille arrive kind of at the same time. They're all making chit chat. And Lisa tells Camille, I'm so sorry with what Kelsey's doing to you. And Camille's like, what else can you do? Lisa's like, the lowest of the low. And so for the tea, they're all sitting up in like kind of a more formal sitting room with like two couches that face each other. Okay. With like just the tea service. They have a beautiful, I wish, honestly, I bet my mom would love it. They have a little push cart that has the tea service on it. But then in the coffee table area are all the foods. But she doesn't have just tea. She's got wine. She's got whatever you want. Absolutely just darling hostess. Can't ask for better. So, but the four of them are sitting around chatting. So obviously Kim's not coming. I don't know where Kim is. Like, Kim's not coming to events. Kim, why are you even on this television show? I don't get it. I don't understand. And so they're sitting around there chatting, and Lisa says that, Kelsey's the lowest of the low. Kyle says, when you go through something like this, you really learn who your friends are. And Lisa tells Camille, we're on your side, darling. And as Lisa is serving sandwiches, she says she got another email from Russell, and she asks if anybody else got one. And Camille says that she got one as well, but it was an article that said that Taylor had taken some diet pills prior to an event so she could lose weight. And Lisa's like, why is he sending this to us? And Adrian asked if Taylor's coming, and Lisa says, of course. I invite everybody because I wouldn't leave anybody out. Which is like, I love that her form of revenge is just to invite Taylor to this event. Now Taylor arrives, and she thanks Lisa for inviting her. And Lisa asked Kyle if she thinks Kim's coming. And Kyle's like, she's moving in with someone and she doesn't even know him. And Kyle feels like Kim doesn't know what she really wants. And then someone is like, well, how long have they been together? And Kyle's like, a year. So Adrian asked if she thinks Kim is just like wanting to be with someone and not wanting to be alone. And Kyle's like, kind of. So now Lisa's serving everyone cakes. And she's like, oh, I spent all morning baking these as a joke, obviously. And then she said, well, Taylor, I heard you had an event yesterday. And Taylor says, like, yeah, I got a nomination for an award and I had a luncheon. So Lisa asks, and you all went? And Taylor's like, yeah. So Lisa says, look, I was upset that I didn't get an invitation because for everything she's ever had, she's always invited her and been kind to her and even invited her to Pandora's engagement party, like when Russell was not allowed to come. And Taylor's like, yeah, I agree. I came to that. As if Taylor did her a favor. Okay, one thing I want to say here is like the tea party had already been planned before Lisa found out that she was not invited to this event. Okay, so there's that. But one thing that is about Lisa that I can just really respect is like she doesn't beat around the bush. She's not just doing a bunch of bullshit. She has an issue and she's getting it out on the table. And I feel like a lot of these people are not able to do that. They either want to ignore it and sweep it under the rug, which is kind of like what Camille's doing or does, not doing currently, or they're just like ignoring it and letting it fester. But I appreciate the fact that Lisa is able to just lay it out. Like, hey, you had an event, you didn't invite me, even though I have always been friendly to you. And Taylor says, she agrees, she came. And so then Lisa cuts her off and says, but you invited Camille and Kyle. And Taylor said, those are my friends. And so Lisa says, but equally, we're all in this group. And so then Taylor says, well, the last couple of times that I've had a conversation with you, you've led into it by saying that you aren't my friend. So Lisa says, I've never said that I'm not your friend. And so Taylor goes, Lisa, you better backtrack because I'm telling you right now, yes, you have. So then Lisa goes, calm down. And we get a replay. And the conversation is, I quoted this because I also couldn't remember. I'm not saying I'm your best friend, but if you need anything, blah, 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 blah. So she's not saying I'm not your friend. What she's saying is we aren't best friends, but I will be there for you if you need something. So that is the exact quote. Not we aren't friends, but you can call me if you need something. That's not what it was. What it was, look, we haven't always been the best of friends, but I will be there for you. Okay. And so Lisa says, why would I tell you that if you needed to, you could come and live at my house with your daughter? And Taylor goes, well, because it will make you look like a saint. So Lisa said, well, you don't have to worry about that anymore because the offer is rescinded. And they show Kyle in the background and she's sitting next to Taylor, or I don't know who she's sitting next to. And she's like this, and she looks like she literally wants to sink and be enveloped into the couch. Like she's so embarrassing. For however good that Kyle is with her own like confrontation, she does not like it when other people are fighting. Like she will run away. And so, okay, so Taylor says, do you really think I would come to someone's house who says that I'm not your friend? So Lisa goes, well, why are you here now? And Taylor says, well, because you invited me. And Lisa says, well, if you're not my friend, I don't normally invite people who aren't my friend. But Taylor cuts her off and says, I am your friend. Don't cut me off. This is what you do to me. You start a conversation with me and Camille and you never let me finish. And then Camille's like, why am I catching strays over here? Like, don't bring me into it. Like, she doesn't say that, but the look on her face is like, excuse me, leave me out of this conversation. But okay, so Taylor cut Lisa off. Lisa cut Taylor off. And then Taylor's like, cuts her off and says, don't cut me off. Okay, well then you both have to like let each other finish the sentence. So she throws a stray at Camille, and then she continues and she says, since the day I met you, I have bent over backwards to be kind to you. She starts to tear up. And you have treated me so poorly that it is embarrassing. And Lisa's like, no, I haven't. And Taylor's like, yes, you have. You told people I don't have friends. And so Lisa's like, what do you mean? So Taylor says, shall I ask the room to be involved? And so Lisa's like, yeah. let's put it out on the table. Because I feel like Taylor wanted someone to step in and be like, no, don't put it out there. And Kyle goes, I know what you're referring to about the friends. It's when we were in Paul's office, you said that Taylor and Camille weren't friends. And Lisa says, no, I didn't say that. I said they didn't see each other. She says, I didn't see each other that often. And then she's like huffing and she's like leaning back in her chair because she's like already frustrated with this conversation. Because she's now been lied upon twice by Taylor because she didn't say that they weren't friends. She said they weren't best friends. And she didn't say that Taylor didn't have any friends. She said her and Camille were not that close. Okay. So Camille says, you said to me, she's talking to Lisa. She's like, well, you called me and you said to me, have you seen Taylor a lot since your divorce? And I said, no, I haven't. She came by for lunch once. Okay. So that's Camille's story. And that's where Lisa is getting this information, okay? So Taylor's like, why are you bringing up my relationship with Camille? It's none of your business. Why are you talking about me behind your back? Okay. I want to put a pin on that one. Let's get our push pin pad ready. In both the things that, what she said, her relationship and why she's talking behind her back. And Lisa goes, well, you don't talk to me about me to Kyle. You don't think that all of us are having these conversations? And Taylor says, not in the way you do. Everyone else is afraid to confront you. And I'm doing so much work in myself. I had to say, stop stirring the pot and step away from the fire. Lisa's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And so Taylor says, I'm going through so much. I have never in my life tried to make someone be my friend. Tears again, even though they're like crocodile tears because she can turn it off and on when she wants to. I have never in my life made someone try to be my friend as I have with you, and I feel like a fool. And Lisa's like, when have you tried? So Taylor says, I've kissed your ass for a year trying to make you like me. I have asked you so many times, are you my friend? Are you not my friend? And I've said to you, I need strong women around me so badly. And you look me in the eye, you say one thing, and you go behind my back and say, I don't have friends. The whole time that she's talking, Lisa's been trying to get a word in edgewise. And Lisa says, I was worried for you. I'm scared for your welfare. And Taylor's like, yes, once it got extreme, but what about in the past? Why would anybody be scared for you if it's not extreme? This whole conversation is pissing me off. So why are you talking about me behind my back? It's breaking my heart. If you can't be my friend, then please don't be my enemy, because life is tough enough as it is. Please. I just wanted to come because you invited me, and there's still a part of me that wants you to be my friend, but I'll never be good enough for you. And Lisa's like, what's good enough? And then Taylor's like, I don't know. You tell me. And now Taylor gets up and she's crying. Okay, we go to commercial break. So I need to pause. We need to talk about this. Okay. And this goes on and on and on and on. We're like halfway there. So what I find interesting is, let's backtrack. Because Taylor says that she bent over backwards to be Lisa's friend. I don't recall her bending over backwards. I recall her being Kyle's friend and getting in the middle of the relationship with Kyle, and then Lisa being like, maybe you need to watch out for that one. And I recall Taylor being friendly, and I recall them being just as friendly with Lisa as she was with Adrian, who she knows Adrian more. They didn't have any problems. I think that because Lisa is such good friends with Kyle, she is also more friendly with Kim. They've known each other. And so when Taylor and Kim were fighting last year, Lisa was constantly taking Kim's side because she knows her, and that's her friend, and that's her friend's sister. Even when it was between Kyle and Kim, Lisa was leaning more towards Kim. if we remember the trip to New York and all the stuff that was happening, I think Lisa felt bad for Kim for being caught up in the middle of it and being kind of like a little bit of a deer in the headlights. And so she's more friendly with Kim. And so maybe Taylor felt all of that. But I don't ever recall in this season or last season Taylor bending over backwards to become Lisa's friend. I do recall that Taylor has felt like she's not good enough. And so this comes from her own insecurities. But she's not acting like Dana Pam, right? Trying to be best friends with Lisa. She's not even acting like Brandy. She's not inviting Lisa to her events. Do you remember the charity event that she had? She only invited Adrian. I mean, she's inviting her to her parties where she invites everyone, but the things that are really important to her, like that charity event last year, this luncheon in the previous day, she's not inviting Lisa to that, but Lisa invites her to every event she has. They go out to lunch, they go to Villa Blanca, and I'm sure they get lots of comped food. I don't know. It's just the lines are not adding up. Okay, for there. No, I'm not saying that Lisa has been bending over backwards to be Taylor's friend. I absolutely think she was not. I think she questions Taylor's motives. So the other thing, where was okay. So when Taylor says, why are you bringing up my relationship to Camille? It's none of your business. Why are you talking about me behind your back? Okay. That was the thing that bothered me. So at one point, because obviously Taylor knows this information because Camille told Taylor, hey, Lisa called me and asked me if we were friends or whatever it was. And so I just lost my train of thought. Hold on just a second. Okay, so at one point Taylor is like, everyone else is afraid to confront you. So how would she know that everyone else is afraid to confront Lisa if she's not also talking about Lisa behind her back? One, why are you talking about my relationship? Why are you talking about me behind my back? Taylor brings up her relationship and her therapy every single conversation they had. The very first episode when Ken was like, oh, I wouldn't go to therapy. That's not a real man. Ken wouldn't have known that you all were doing therapy if you were not the one that had told him. Okay. So you're telling everyone about your relationship. The whole trip to Colorado was you having a nervous breakdown, talking about your relationship, telling Kyle all about your relationship, and then you're going crazy. So what do you mean? Why is she talking about your relationship when you talk about your relationship? Why is she talking about you behind your back when you talk about everybody behind their back? Okay. So there's that. Okay. So they went to commercial break. Taylor's up and crying. She's upset. Okay. Now we're back from commercial break. Kyle and Adrian are trying to talk to Taylor and calm her down. She's grabbing her head and she's like, I can't live like this. I can't live like this anymore. I'm struggling so much. I'm working on myself. I'm so flawed. And you gave me the worst anxiety because you judge me and you say things like, I'm not your friend. Who says that to another human being? And we as viewers have already established that Lisa did not say that. Obviously, they can't just like roll back the footage while they're in the middle of a scene. So she's still, gaslighting herself into this narrative that Lisa said she wasn't her friend or whatever. But it's also like, you're having anxiety and you can't live like this. Like, for me, if Lisa Vanderpump has really been giving you all this stress, why are you here? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, just quit the show. It's not worth your mental health to be on a reality TV show. In fact, it's costing you your mental health. We'll talk about that later, but why she joined the show. We'll talk about that. So Lisa says, I'm just saying I wanted to help you because I was scared because of what you told me. So right there means that Taylor was talking to Lisa about her relationship. And Taylor says, I'm scared for me too. I know. And Lisa says, I wanted to say because basically she's trying to say what I meant to say was because you and I have never been that close and you know that. And then Taylor says, but why? And Kyle says, that's what she's talking about. That's the part that bothered her. And Lisa says, yeah, because we aren't close necessarily. And Taylor says, but I try to be close to you. And Lisa says, well, I wanted to help you because I was scared for you. You know what? I just shouldn't have said anything. I shouldn't have said that I wanted to help you. And Taylor says, you were wrong to say I'm not your friend. And Lisa's like, I never said that. What I wanted to say is that I know we've had our moments and we didn't get off to a good start. And I wasn't wildly crazy about your husband. At this point, Taylor has sat back down and she's like, calmed down a little bit. And she's like, I'm not wildly crazy about him most of the time. So Lisa says, I know that. I'm just saying that we've had our moments. I'm not your best friend. But if you were in trouble, you have a place to go. And so then Adrienne pipes up and she says, maybe a better way of saying that would be like, instead of saying, I'm not your friend. And Lisa says, I didn't say I'm not your friend. I apologize for saying I'm not your best friend or your friend, or we haven't had a great start. I apologize. And some things I've said, some things you've said haven't gelled with me. But that's normal. You don't get 6 women together and say, I love you to everybody. And, I wasn't friendly with Camille particularly, but only when she was going through a hard time, we got closer because I was there to support her. And then Lisa says, I am your friend if you need. Do you understand me? That's all I'm saying. So here's where this should have ended, because Lisa's saying, I'm sorry. Let me explain myself. If you took it a certain way, here's what I mean. And I'm sorry. And I apologize. And because the reality is Lisa never said that. So she doesn't actually have to apologize, but she is realizing that Taylor took it a certain way that was unintentional. And so she is apologizing and she's being the bigger person. Okay. This is where it should have ended. Taylor should have just said, I accept your apology. I just need you to know that my emotions are still a little bit fried. I'm just actually going to just like exit myself, but I accept your apology and I'm ready to move forward. If she had said that, we would have been kosher. Obviously, that's not what happened. So then Taylor just again, because here's what I really want to talk about. Taylor didn't come to this tea to get an apology because she really doesn't give a fuck. Taylor came to this tea with a plan to punish Lisa Vanderpump because her and for sure Adrienne, and she's probably looping Dana and Kyle and Camille, both of them to a smaller extent, have sat around and had conversations, multiple I'm sure, about Lisa Vanderpump. And like I said before, I feel it's coming from a place of jealousy, the same way that Jill was jealous of Bethany, the same way that, everybody was jealous of Nene, the same way, it's coming from a place of jealousy. Okay. Lisa Vanderpump was the favorite, whereas Taylor maybe thought she was going to be the favorite. Camille was unfairly labeled the villain. Unfairly is arguable. She was acting villainous. When you act villainous or pernicious, you become pernicious, I guess. But they've sat around and they've planned this. And in Taylor's, or they've sat around and they've talked about how terrible Lisa Vanderpump is. And she hasn't been to a lot of the events. She's been busy doing stuff. She's planning Pandora's wedding. So there has been lots of opportunities for them to sit around and talk about her. And I think another big issue that people have is her sort of like sneaky, snarky, cheeky comments that she makes just in her confessionals. Confessional comments really rub everyone the wrong way. It's almost like maybe they should just say it to their face and not behind their back. Because as an audience, of course, we love the cheeky comments, but the women hate them. So Taylor has come into this event with a plan. She didn't come into this event as like, ooh, I made a boo-boo. I didn't invite you to my event. I'm sorry. She came in at like easy breezy, beautiful. because she knew that she was going to use this event to take down Lisa Vanderpump in her own home. She wasn't sorry at all for not inviting her. She didn't feel the least bit scared. The problem is that she assumed all the other women were going to jump to her defense. And nobody's really said anything. They're all just trying to say, well, maybe you shouldn't have said it that way, or that's what she was mad about. And when she's trying to loop in Camille or Kyle, and they're both like, don't include me in your narrative, ma'am. So she's now, because she's dug herself into this hole of trying to attack Lisa Vanderpump, her mind is there. It's spinning. It's on this hamster wheel. And even though Lisa has apologized, and what in a normal conversation with someone without an agenda, maybe you wouldn't be able to hear that or accept it, but you would realize, okay, she's apologized, I should back off. That's not what happened. So Taylor says, I have tried to be your friend since the day I met you. I've gone out of my way to try to get close to you and be your friend. And at every turn, you have a comment that is hurtful or sarcastic. So Lisa has now clued into what this is, and she's not arguing. She's not playing games. She's just going to gray rock, essentially. So she's like, I didn't mean to hurt you. And Taylor says, I don't mean to hurt you either, but I have to know who my friends are because I'm still struggling and I have a child, an enormous amount of responsibility, and I'm trying my best, the best I can, and to find self-esteem and, be who you are. And I guess you pointing to the other women. Like, so basically she's like, I'm trying to be my own version of Lisa Vanderpump or Kyle or Camille or Adrian. And Lisa's like, well, you don't need to be who I am or who she is. You just need to be yourself. And then Taylor's like, but I don't know who I am, and I don't need you judging me on the way. And so Lisa's like, I'm not judging you. And Taylor says, well, you do in a sarcastic way. So Lisa says, you know what? I'm sorry. And Taylor just keeps going. Like, this is the third apology. Taylor says, you make me feel bad about myself. So Lisa says, okay. And now that Taylor has realized she's not getting a rise out of Lisa, she's now victimizing herself. Okay. Now, when Lisa says that Taylor is manipulative, with this shit, she is exactly on the money. So Taylor says, I'm sorry to ruin your tea. Camille tells us that Taylor seemed like she was on a mission. She was angry at Lisa, and so she was going in for the kill. And then Taylor is like, let's all be honest for once, instead of just me. You're the one talking about friends, and I'm not sure that your definition of friend is so clear. Maybe we should all sit down alone, and I'll give you a real honest view of what everyone else is feeling, because they don't want to speak up for themselves. So then Kyle gives her a look like, excuse me, bitch. Because here's the thing. Taylor has a mission, and she's tried. This is her third tactic, because she's tried flat out saying it. She's tried making herself the victim. And now she's just going to be like, well, she tried saying it and she thought everyone would join her. And when that didn't happen, she victimized herself. And when that didn't happen, now she's angry again. And so Kyle gives her a look like, absolutely not. So Taylor says, just so you know who your friends are. And let's talk about Lisa's ego and how it's been inflated over this last year. Have you not said Lisa's ego is out of control? Pointing to Kyle. And Kyle's like, well, yeah, I think it's a big ego. And then Lisa goes, wow, Kyle. And this hurt her. So Taylor says, you're your own screensaver on your iPad. It's a picture of you with your dog. Which is like, of course, it's a picture of her and Jiggy. Like, what the fuck? She loves that dog. She lets that dog drink out of crystal. And then Lisa shows us the picture in a confessional, and it is like more of like a racy photo, but it's just like a professional picture. But it's mostly Jiggy, and she's just kind of in the background holding him. Whatever. Taylor goes, it's obnoxious. You're so self-involved. It's unbelievable to me. Baby, who is self-involved? You've literally made every single event that we've had about you. Have we had an event where you haven't talked about your fucking therapy? You haven't had a mental breakdown? Like, give me a break. And so then Lisa, she's quiet now, and she's like, I didn't realize you guys were all trashing me behind my back, because you know what? I've never said anything negative about you and you. And the only person in this room that I felt friction with is Taylor. And the other girls are just like quietly denying it, because they're like, they are doing that. I mean, it's very clear. So Taylor gets up and she says, I'm leaving. And she's like, no one can be, everybody's being dishonest. So Taylor tells us that she was expecting the girls to back her up, but they're just a bunch of chickens. So then she walks out into the driveway up to the gate, and she sees Paul, and he is like home, and he crosses the street, and he's like looking at her filler through the gate. It's so bizarre. And they're just staying there. So then she's telling him the whole story, and she's like, yeah, I stormed out. I've had it. And she's like, everyone is talking about what Lisa has become, but no one will admit it to her face. And Paul's like, well, I thought Kyle was upset about some things too. And Taylor says, well, Adrian and Kyle and Camille do too, but no one will admit it. Oh my God. So now we go to commercial break. Okay, so coming back from commercial break, it's just the other four women, and now they're like kind of pissed because they have been thrown under the bus. And it's like, yeah, maybe they've said something like that to each other, but they clearly didn't want to have Lisa know about it, or the biggest thing is have it be on camera. So Kyle says, I'll tell you exactly what I said. And Lisa's like, I know. You didn't defend me in here, though. And Kyle says, I have her saying, back me up, and you saying, back me up. What am I supposed to do? Kyle tells us she didn't see why she had to get involved to help them fight their battles. And she's like, no one helps me out. Kyle is like, I wanted to be here for you both. I'm not in high school. Lisa says, I've never said anything negative about you or you. The only person I've ever had problems with is Taylor. And you know what? Now I'm not sure what's true. I don't know. I'm unsure. And you've all voiced the same opinion to me about Taylor. She tells us that it seems silly to her that they were focusing on her relationship with Taylor when they've heard so many horrible things about Taylor's marriage. And she says that she's distanced herself from Taylor because she's not sure she's getting the whole story. And she doesn't have time to invest in friendship that she doesn't know what to believe. So this is going to be a sentiment that all the women feel. And what they're talking about specifically is the dichotomy of Taylor, who on the one hand tells them terrible things about her marriage. And on the other hand is like, but I love him and we're going to stay together and we are so happy and we're going on vacation. So Camille is going to have a specific example of this in a minute. But what Lisa is saying is like, it's difficult for me to know what the truth is. I feel like she's manipulative and I cannot get close to somebody who I can't trust. Okay. And this is like not so much about not believing, because for Lisa specifically, the entire time we've ever talked about it, she is the one that believes she believes it. Whereas Kyle, Camille, and Adrian are all questioning on whether there is any abuse in the home. Not once does Lisa Vanderpump ever question it, but what she questions is if she can trust Taylor emotionally to invest in her friendship. Because, I think it's because she does believe it, and it's the going back that she questions, which again, we're going to talk about that tomorrow, not tomorrow, but the next episode. So, okay. She doesn't know what to believe. So Adrian says, how could somebody live with somebody who is so horrific? And then 5 minutes later, they're best friends. It's hard. And Kyle says either it's not true and she's a typical situation that's in denial. Camille says, well, that one time that she came over for lunch, we talked for 3 hours about how she thought her marriage was over. And I'm like, okay, let me just pause for a second. Did Camille leak the story? Because Lisa has never said that she thought their marriage was over. But now Camille is saying that they had a 3-hour conversation that she thought their marriage was over. Okay, so it could be Camille. I mean, I'm not saying she did. I don't know who did it. So, and then she says, We talked 3 hours about how she thought her marriage was over. And then after this, after we had this long conversation and she knew it was over and it was the end, she gets up to leave. She gives me a hug and she's like, I'm getting ready to go on a G4 with a smile on her face. And I'm thinking, how can you be going on a trip with your husband if your marriage is over? Camille tells us that she's telling me she's leaving, like he's leaving her and she needs a place to stay. Then why would she be jumping on an airplane 3 hours later? Which also, saying she needs a place to stay, Lisa Vanderpump was specifically saying, if you need a place to stay, you and your daughter, you and Kennedy can always come and stay at our house. I mean, they live in this big mansion. So she's been telling multiple people that they likely need a place to stay. We haven't heard any of that. So this is another piece to this puzzle that Taylor, some of the little things that have been said, just like the few little things, like when they were in Colorado and Adrian was like, but it's not physical, right? So that was like our first clue that it was physical. And if you were not like eagle-eyed and seeing that Taylor had a black eye, which I wasn't originally, right? It's only now because I know what's going on. You might not have noticed it. So, but she's been telling them all this horrible stuff and basically saying, oh, you can't talk about it on the show. So that's difficult. That's a difficult line to walk. It is the same thing that Kyle and Kim were doing, knowing that Kim was an alcoholic and Kyle was having to keep it a secret. Same exact thing. That's difficult to have these huge, monumental, life-altering secrets and not be able to share them and have to keep, that causes so much stress. And then they all know about it. So Camille goes on to say, to me, this is a mixed message. And that's when I'm like, well, who's telling the truth here? So Kyle says maybe she's exaggerated things. You know, people say they have more money than they have. Welcome to LA. It's like everybody does that here. And Lisa's like, well, you know, nobody's going to exaggerate saying that your husband abuses you. And like literally everybody stops. And she's like, that's a very different thing to say than just saying like, oh, I have more than I have. So we go back outside and Taylor's still talking to Paul. And she's like, every time, and Paul clearly is like, I don't want to be having this conversation right now. But he's like, she's like, every time I talk to the other girls about it, they're like, we'll back you up. We'll back you up. And then I get in a situation like this and nobody backed me up or admitted what they've been saying for months. And she goes, the jiggy is up. I'm like, you should have saved that. You could have done that in a different time. She says, they're probably in there talking to me right now. And later, she says, every single one of those girls is afraid of her. They're all afraid of her. So then Lisa says, how can any of us have a relationship with her, doubting what she says? And Adrian says, it bothers me that she doesn't have enough willpower to get through and accept it. I think like accept like the marriage is over. I'm not exactly sure. Which it's not about willpower. Again, episode's getting long. We'll talk about this in the next episode. They'll say, if it's true, it's true. Kyle says, if it's not true, I don't want to be associated with anybody that would talk about something. That's horrific. And Camille says, because if it's not true, that would make us look horrible. Basically saying like, if we're accusing this man of being a wife beater, then it needs to be true because you're going to wrap all of us in it. And then again, we're like liable. And Kyle says, it's going to ruin somebody's life. And Camille says, you know what? Russell's always been lovely to me. He's always been nice. I don't know what to believe. And then Kyle says, unless I know for a fact, I can't judge. And Lisa says, but she's your friend. And Kyle says, I know, but I can't judge. It's not matching up to me. Again, Lisa is the only one who is believing Taylor. Kyle says, unless I see something with my own eyes, I just can't say. And so then Lisa says, well, do we all believe it or not? Outside, Taylor's still talking to Paul, and she's like, I'm tired of everybody not telling the truth. And then they talk about her face and all her filler. I mean, it's just so bizarre. And they're out there for a long time because the ladies have been able to have this whole long conversation. So at some point, Paul is like, I gotta go, but can you tell Adrian just to call me? Because I think he was coming over to find Adrian or something. So Taylor comes back in and they're all talking about this and they're all like, So she tells Adrian, she's like, Paul wants you. He needs you to call the house. So Adrian gets up and she's gone for the rest of this conversation. Okay. So then all the other ladies, so we're at Kyle, Camille, and Lisa. They asked Taylor, they're like, why don't you sit back down? And Camille says, look, we've kind of rehashed the situation that you're going through with Russell. And Camille goes, this is an intervention that was unexpected, but it was needed. And Camille says that she's like, look, Lisa is saying that she doesn't like Russell based on what you've told her. And right now I'm reserving judgment because I haven't seen anything. So Taylor was like, why are we talking about this? And Kyle's like, what do you mean? This is what is happening. And all I'm saying, look, maybe they had a fight that was exaggerated. So Taylor goes, over 6 years? And Kyle's like, I don't know. But the point is, Taylor goes, you said to me, I'll back you up. So Taylor's trying to redirect this conversation about her marriage back to Lisa Vanderpump. None of the other women are going to have it. They're not going to go against Lisa Vanderpump. Okay. So they're trying to redirect the conversation on Taylor's marriage. If you're wondering why that is, the reason that Lisa brought up Taylor's marriage is as an explanation of why she can't be close to Taylor or be friends with Taylor, because she can't trust her, because she doesn't know, like, she doesn't understand why Taylor would tell her all these terrible things about her marriage and stay with this man. So that's how we got here. But Taylor obviously wasn't aware for that. So she's kind of like, why are we talking about my marriage? Let's talk about Lisa Vanderpump. And so Kyle's like, hold on now. Taylor, you asked me to back you up. Don't fuck with me like this because I don't like that. You asked me to, and I said, that's not fair. Don't do that to me. So here's interesting. Taylor asked Kyle to back her up, and Kyle was like, she's not going to do it. So that's interesting. Now, what's not said is she's not saying she didn't talk shit about Lisa Vanderpump, but what she did say is she wasn't going to talk to Lisa Vanderpump about it and back Taylor up. And so then Taylor is like, well, why is this about my marriage? Because this was supposed to be about Lisa. And so you all went there with a plan to go after Lisa Vanderpump. That's confirming that, right? That's confirming you wanted to take down Lisa Vanderpump in her own tea party. And Taylor tells us, somehow this turned back to my marriage again. Yes, somehow. It's because Lisa's smarter than you, bitch. You know why you're intimidated by her? Because she is better. She was able to turn this all back on you, okay? So you know what? You shouldn't have done this. So Taylor says, you called Camille and said, Kyle said today that Camille and Taylor are not friends. So Camille, I need you to back me up tonight and say you are friends with Taylor. And Lisa says, no. That they don't see, all I said was they don't see each other, not that they weren't friends. And so then Taylor says, well, why do you need to have her back if it's not a lie? And Lisa's like, they're talking about Kyle. And Lisa's like, we talk every couple of days. And Taylor says, well, I don't care. Why did you ask her to back you up? And Lisa's like, I can ask her because that was the only time that Taylor, okay, they're talking about Camille. Both Camille and Kyle were like, I'm not backing you up. And so they're talking about Lisa called Camille and said, back me up when this happens. And Camille's confirming basically what Lisa is saying. Like, you only came to see me one time. And she says, and I said that you talked to me for 3 hours and said your husband was definitely leaving you. And then you hugged me and said that you were getting on a G4 with Russell to go somewhere. And I was like, wow, that's so odd. So Taylor says, I feel like I have no idea who my friends are. I'm so confused and I feel like I'm in shock. And then Taylor tells the group, everyone talking behind everyone's back. Let's all just start being honest. So don't call her and talk about me, and don't talk about me. And I would love to have you as a friend. But if you can't, please just don't talk about me behind my back. And Lisa goes, okay, vice versa. All of this stuff has been said about me too. And Teresa. Oh my God. Can you imagine if Teresa Giudice was that poor Lisa Vanderpump's table service would have already been flipped. So Taylor says, great. I think everyone should start saying what they mean. And Camille goes, yeah, we got it today. So then Taylor makes her ultimate mistake. She says, well, I don't think we got everything out, but okay. So what Taylor's insinuating is that the other ladies have more to say about Lisa Vanderpump that she hasn't already spilled the beans on. But here's the thing. Both Camille and Kyle are pissed about having been roped into it because they don't want to go toe to toe with Lisa Vanderpump. They don't want to go toe to toe with anybody because of what happened last year. They're trying to stay out of it. They're trying to stay neutral and be friends with everybody. So at this point, Camille's pissed because she's tired of being dragged into fights. And this is what's going to continue and be the theme of Camille is that she does not want to be villainized again. She went through a lot, being on the Housewives, and she went through a lot with Kelsey. So she's just not going to put up with it, okay? So she basically says, everything? I don't think you want everything to be put out there. You said everything. I would be careful what you say because we're all protecting you. We're all protecting you. And Lisa's like, yeah, we're protecting you. She's like backing her up. She's like, yeah, bitch. And Taylor goes, about my marriage? And Camille goes, about what you told us about your marriage. We've been protecting you because we don't say he hit you, because we don't say he broke your jaw. We don't say that he beat you up, that he hit you. But now we've said it. Oh my God. So, mic drop. I literally have goosebumps because this speech was so impactful, and it was basically like laying everything out on the table. And she was like, you're going to throw me under the bus? Fine. I'm going to tell all your dirty laundry. We're protecting you. You shouldn't have started this because we're doing all this to protect you. And if you had started this, then I wouldn't put it out here. But I'm tired of doing your dirty work, and I'm going to tell the world what's going on with you, and I'm going to stop protecting you. He beats the shit out of you, and we don't need to step on eggshells anymore. And that's the end of the episode. We will pick back up in this same spot, in this same speech, next episode. And we're going to talk about more about this then, because this is a long one. I don't want it to be too long, even though it already is. Thank you so much for joining me. I would love to hear your thoughts about Lisa Vanderpump, about Camille spilling the beans, or about Taylor's black eye. Just let me know. As always, give me a rating and review. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.